Hello, friends, and welcome back to Market Shares. I'm your host, Tony Blodgett, and today I'm just going to talk a little bit about AI because, why not? It's what everyone else is talking about. But over the last couple of weeks, it's become very apparent to me that AI is making its way into the mortgage business in a very meaningful way. And I think there's a lot of fear and trepidation about that. Look, I think there's a lot of fear about AI just in the general, public, the general population. Everyone's got questions about it, and a lot of this I think stems from we don't really know the full extent of what AI will look like in the next 12, 18, 24 months, not to mention 5 or 10 years from now. And the acceleration that we've seen in AI in just the last 12 months is really unbelievable. And what we haven't seen yet is a lot of regulation around AI. And I think that that's coming, and it'll be interesting to see what that looks like. Is there regulation that is intended to protect people's jobs, because there's a lot of fear about AI eliminating jobs in all sorts of industries, certainly in the mortgage industry as well. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. We also haven't really seen, as it's specific to the mortgage industry, how does compliance and regulation impact how AI is utilized specifically in our space? And until we have that, there's a lot of unanswered questions about AI. But there are some things that I think we should be talking about right now. And so I'm going to go over just a few of those in this brief podcast and just give you some of my thoughts. As you can see, I have no notes today. This is just kind of what's on my heart and what I'm seeing and observing in our industry, and maybe some advice for people that haven't yet decided to embrace AI. Here's what I'll say is that what we're seeing, and there was a news article published this week, so this is public knowledge at this point, but the company I work for, New American Funding, is looking at a new LOS platform, and we'll be moving forward with Vesta, which is an AI-based LOS platform. And as I've seen how even people within our organization are leveraging AI today, this is without a new AI-based LOS platform, just how they're using our in-house, what we call NAF AI, but it's driven by Gemini, but it's a very secure environment. And what's nice about that is we can upload borrowers, documents, we can upload pay stubs and bank statements and all sorts of other personal information, knowing that it's within the security of our own network. And that allows us to do a lot with that information. Now, I think you got to be really careful if you don't have an AI environment within your organization. Uploading a borrower's pay stubs and tax returns into something like ChatGPT definitely is not advised, as there is no security around where that information goes. But if you have the luxury and opportunity to work within a secure AI environment, the power of what AI has been able to do in just the last few months for companies that are leveraging it in a meaningful way is really speed up the process. So a couple of areas where I've seen this make a significant impact for loan officers specifically. And look, I've done episodes about using AI to help build content and help you, put on meetings and, presentations to real estate agents. And that's like the sales side of AI. And I think there's a lot to explore there. I think there's a lot more that people could do on the sales side. But I'm talking about making the job of a loan officer easier. And things like calculating income. And I've heard people say, look, Tony, I don't need AI to help me calculate income. I've been calculating income for years. Like, it's really not that difficult to do. But the reality is that we all have our borrowers' information that they typically upload to us in a digital format. And now we have the opportunity of just dumping that information into an AI system and asking it questions about this borrower's income, right? Are there any gaps in employment that I didn't see? Can you average out their income and break out their standard wages, their overtime, and any bonus pay? Can we look at their tax returns and identify what their income, their usable income is based on the type of loan product that we're trying to approve them for? And it can do this in just a matter of seconds. And it doesn't really matter how complicated the person's income is. You could upload 8 W-2s for a borrower, and it'll basically instantly give you what the income is that you could help them qualify. So what we're seeing now is some more sophisticated loan officers, people that are more familiar with AI, are able to write very specific prompts and then ask the AI to give them very specific answers to what their needs are. But now what we're starting to see evolve is companies building agents on behalf of their loan officers, processors, underwriters. These are more complex prompts that are pre-written to do specific or even multiple tasks with the information that you provide to the AI. And as I think about income in particular, I just want to share a little case study. So many of you know that when you calculate a borrower's income and you run it through an automated underwriting system like DU or LP, which, by the way, are essentially AI, right? We've been using AI to help underwrite loans for 20 years. But what's interesting is if you put in the income and then you have the bank statements in the file and the borrower has automatic deposits and it can, and you've used like account check or something, Plaid or something like that, that has already validated the borrower's deposits into their bank account, oftentimes you get limited documentation requirements from your AUS because it can see those deposits directly into their bank account. It says, yep, that all ties out with the income that you put in. And, we find that maybe it's 30% of the time you won't need to get a verification of employment or any other documents regarding their income. But what we've also found is that when you utilize AI to calculate the income for you, even though you know how to do it, right? I don't question that, and some people better than others. But when you use the AI to calculate the income, then what we find is that because the computer calculated it right down to the penny that it thinks is the right income, and then that matches up with the asset documents that might be, synced in and tied in with the file, that the AUS is going to give you as much as a 70% return on not needing additional documentation, because it turns out that AI and computer-generated income ties out more consistently with what the income is that the AUS system is going to use. And so that's just one small example of where you didn't need to use AI, but if you did, A, it probably saved you some time on calculating the income, and B, it gave you a more streamlined approval process. So this is really only happening in companies where you have a secure AI environment where you can upload documents and ask it questions about that borrower's income or assets or whatnot. And you have to kind of know what you're doing a little bit, right? As the loan officer, you have to be able to write the prompts and say, hey, I want you to think like an underwriter. I want you to consider the FHA guidelines or the conventional guidelines as you review this and do your calculations. But I think that we're not far off. And in many cases, we have agents built that will, they're income calculator agents. They're loan qualification agents. They will search the guidelines that you tell it to, and it will go through those multiple steps. And this is just the beginning, you guys. But for those that are leveraging this, the amount of time that you now have to spend in getting your borrower pre-approved and set up and ready for the next step in the process can be drastically reduced, especially if you're a loan officer who works with more complex income situations, whether that be people who have multiple job situations. They work out of a union, they're seasonal employees, whatever the case may be. Or maybe you have someone that has very complex tax returns where, maybe you had a department that you could send those tax returns to, and they would take 24 hours and get back to you with income calculation. Many companies have that. Now you can literally get that return to you in seconds, and have confidence in what that is. So what we're seeing is an evolution of people that companies that offer this secure environment and the tools to be able to use that, they're getting separated from the companies that don't. Then you have loan officers who are comfortable enough and I would say thorough enough to upload the documents, ask the AI to do the analysis for them, and come up with these calculations. And we're not far off from a lot of that being automated. Now you think about an LOS system that is completely based on an AI platform. Now you don't need, an AI system because it's all built into your LOS. You've already uploaded the documents. It's going to name them, organize them. It's going to analyze them, make sure that the application is 100% accurate based on what was uploaded, identify things that might have been missing that are gaps in the story, right? Because it's got that all built into it. And now, instead of working your way through different milestones of the loan process, you're simply working off of tasks that have identified any gaps that might be missing in the file. And this is all going to drive massive efficiency in the mortgage origination process. Now, there's companies all up and down the spectrum. I'm not suggesting that, we're at a place where we're leading the pack. I think that, our goal is to be a leader in this space as we evolve over the next 12 months. But I'm sure there's companies that are farther ahead than we are in this process. And I'm sure there's companies that aren't even thinking about, or they might be thinking about it, but going, we don't have the resources to invest to get caught up. And I think you're going to start seeing a pretty significant separation in companies that have done that. You also have companies that have invested a lot of money in technology really just over the last couple years, but it's not technology that has a foundation in AI. And that technology is all but going to be worthless, in my opinion, in the not too distant future, as everything is driven by AI. So I think it's a very exciting time. I think that our industry, like all industries out there, are going to have to see a significant increase in productivity. Now, the big question people have is, well, does that mean jobs? Does that mean loan officers will be eliminated? I was actually listening to a podcast just the other day where there is a company that is trying to build an AI loan officer. And that's a little scary. Like, let's be honest, right? I mean, they're available 24/7. They probably return their emails a lot quicker than a loan officer might. And they probably have really good answers. But you know what they don't have is a mortgage license. And I think that's something that's going to help the originator in particular, is that what we do, or a good part of what we do, is requires a license to do it, right? We're giving people advice, financial advice. We're quoting terms and conditions of their mortgage, and that's all licensed activity. And I don't see anything on the trajectory that's going to replace the need for a licensed person in this role. Again, I think this is where regulation, comes into play. Like I talked about at the very beginning, like how does regulation and compliance evolve around AI? But I think that the licensed mortgage professional is pretty protected. But if you think about the other steps in the process, the processors, the underwriters, things like that, I think that there is reason to be concerned, but I think that we still need humans involved in the process. You've probably seen my past podcasts where I've talked about how silly of arguments I've gotten into with AI. And if you use AI as much as I do, ChatGPT or Grok or Gemini or, Cloud or whatever that you're using, you would have to agree with me that it does some things very well, and other things it just gets wrong. It just isn't accurate sometimes. And I literally have gotten into arguments with my good friend ChatGPT on more than one occasion. And so I do think there has to be a human element. But what there isn't going to be in the future is people that are, I don't care if you're on the origination and sales side of this business, you have to be leveraging AI for productivity. You have to be leveraging AI for ideas and for streamlining your sales process. But on the operations side, it's the same thing. There won't be processors that don't know how to leverage AI. Now, I think the companies are going to make this easier for you. I think you're going to see agents continue to be built and developed. Matter of fact, I know this. We have tons of them in development right now, and as do many other companies. I think your LOS system, will be completely AI based, and it will do a lot of the things without you having to be an AI expert to make it do those things. But you do have to understand how AI works, and that starts right now. That starts right now with getting familiar with it. So I would just encourage everybody to not be afraid of what AI is going to do, or if AI is going to replace your job or whatever. I would just get better today. I would learn what you can about how to use AI. How do prompts work? How does it think? How does it process? And start getting more familiar with it. So as your company and as our industry starts embracing more and more of this AI, incorporated into the technologies that we use every day, it's not foreign to us when that time comes. Because what you're going to see is significant increases in productivity for the people who know how to leverage the tools that are there. And then you're going to see other people struggle to keep up. And now, yeah, your job might be replaced, but it's not being replaced by AI. It's being replaced by someone else who does the exact same job as you, but has learned to use the tools that are available today to make them as efficient at their job as absolutely possible. And that will be the differentiator. You'll be replaced by other humans, because we will need humans in this industry and every industry, but we'll need humans that understand and are willing to leverage the technology that is available to them. Because as productivity increases, there will be a need for a processor to go from processing 15 or 20 loans a month to 50 to 60 loans a month, maybe to 100 loans a month. So that person's still there, but the productivity goes up. The amount of work they have to do on each loan goes down, but someone is still there making sure that the human element is brought into it and that things are moving as there should. At least that's my guess on what happens. I don't think we all get replaced by robots someday. I think that we get drastically enhanced and our productivity gets enhanced by it. But we got to be willing to use it and not be afraid of it, and not have this mindset of I'm just not going to go there. I'm going to pretend like this isn't happening, because this isn't a race, to see which companies will, be AI, enabled companies and which ones won't, and how they're going to do. That's not the competition that I see. The question, the reality is every company will be leveraging AI, and the question is which companies get there the quickest and which ones do it in the most efficient way. And look, you're not going to replace customer service 100%, meaning I don't foresee a day where people are okay with no human interaction. I just don't foresee that happening. And so, until it does, let's act as if we play an important role, and we do. There's things that we do, obviously, significantly better than any AI or machine can do. So let's be really good at those things. And a lot of it is the heart and the caring and the emotion that we bring to the relationships and the interactions that we have. That we can get better at. And the mundane stuff that no one really enjoys doing anyway, that's really just busy work, let's let the machines do that. And I think if we can frame it that way, we can have this symbiotic relationship between the technology and the tools that are available, we can keep our calm and we can evolve into this level of efficiency that I expect to see in our industry over the next couple of years. But I do think it's going to happen quick. Don't get me wrong. It's not going to. You're going to start seeing significant changes if you're not already in the next 6-12 months. By the end of 2026, I think it will become much clearer to more people what this industry is going to look like, how it's starting to kind of reshape. To me, it's not scary. To me, it is a new kind of adventure. We've talked for years about how this mortgage industry is just boring and it never changes. And yeah, there's something nice about that, right? We all like stability, but we're going to see change. And I want all of you, and myself included, to be on the forefront of that change and not lose sight of where we fit into the equation, but also don't be afraid to leverage the new technologies that are coming our way, because they're coming whether we like it or not. So I hope this message finds you well. I hope you enjoy taking your time every week and listening to a few minutes of me talk about what's going on in the mortgage industry. And if you do, please let someone know. I'm not going to replace myself with AI anytime soon. So I'm showing up here to give you what's on my mind and on my heart. And I hope that you share that with people in our industry. And until next time, you guys, like and subscribe to the channel. You'll get a new episode every single Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific time, and I'll see you then. Take care.